They say the Isle of Man keeps its secrets, and one of them still whispers through the walls. In 1931, the Irvings heard it, a voice that laughed, mocked, and listened back. It spoke from the attic unseen, calling itself Gef, half beast, half spirit, a trickster wrapped in fur and fear. Some believed it was a hoax, others swore it knew things no one should. And tonight, we'll listen to the voice that never really left.
In a remote farmhouse on the windswept Isle of Man, behind the old stone walls, a voice echoed, claiming to belong to an 80-year-old mongoose from New Delhi. It introduced itself as Gef. The Irvings swore they heard it, conversed with it, even befriended it. But was it a spirit, a ventriloquist's trick, or something else entirely? Not long after arriving, they reported hearing strange scratching, scuttling sounds, noises behind walls. At first, they thought perhaps a rodent or small creature had taken residence. But what followed would defy reason. In the early 1930s, the Irving family, James, Margaret, and their daughter Voiri, moved into a rural farmhouse known as Dawlish Cashen. To most passers-by, it was an ordinary stone cottage on the Isle of Man, rugged and wind-scarred. But the walls of that house would soon host something unimaginable. The scratching sounds grew bolder. The family heard something shifting behind walls, shifting from room to room. Sometimes a faint squeak or rustle. The Irvings said they could almost sense movement within the plaster and timber. Then, one night, they claimed a voice spoke. At first, so faint, they thought it a trick of the wind or their imagination. But the voice repeated, "I am Gef." Gef claimed to be an 80-year-old mongoose, originally from New Delhi, who had somehow made its home in their walls. It spoke in a high, sharp tone and in multiple languages. Sometimes it mocked, sometimes it threatened, but it also offered companionship. The Irvings insisted they conversed with Gef daily. It parroted their words, answered questions, and even debated with them. In private, it would speak to Margaret, James, and Voiri, sometimes individually, sometimes all three at once. Gef claimed worldly knowledge, telling them about cities, events, law. It boasted, "I'll split the atom. I am the fifth dimension. I am the eighth wonder of the world." And then threatened cryptically to harm them, though always said, "But I won't." Gef performed services too, hunting rabbits for the family, sharing legends or fairy tales, performing tricks. The family, bewildered and entranced, began to feed it, talk to it, and depend on it as if it were real. The Irvings' bizarre claim could not remain hidden. Word spread. Reporters, spiritualists, and folklorists traveled to the Isle of Man, hoping to witness Gef themselves. Most orthodox investigators were disappointed. Gef rarely spoke in front of visiting skeptics. In 1935, the famous paranormal investigator Harry Price and a BBC editor, R.S. Lambert, visited the cottage, but Gef remained silent during their stay. Samples of supposed hair, teeth, and claws sent by the Irvings were discovered to belong to their sheepdog, raising serious doubts. Ultimately, the investigation concluded that the case lacked concrete proof. But the Irvings never wavered. They insisted Gef was real. They said, "Gef unfortunately does exist. He is a cross we have to bear." The Gef case escalated beyond folklore. The BBC faced legal challenges when rumours spread that Lambert believed in the occult. The British Prime Minister even convened an inquiry. The case became entangled with spiritualism, press, and politics. Lambert sued for slander and won. The matter touched on national pride, journalistic freedom, and public credulity. Some defended the Irvings as honest folk. Others saw them as victims of delusion or deliberate hoaxes. For decades, scholars have wrestled with Gef. Was it a ventriloquist trick, a mass hallucination, a spiritual entity, or perhaps a clever ruse? Over time, Jeff's voice faded. James Irving fell ill. Voyery moved out. The family's connection with Jeff weakened. By the late 1930s, the phenomena ceased. Eventually, the farmhouse was sold and later demolished. One subsequent owner claimed he shot a strange animal on the land, but long after that, no one heard Jeff again. Voyery died in 2005, never recanting her tale. The walls that once echoed with a talking mongoose now lie in rubble. The mystery lives on. Some regard the case as a hoax, others as a genuine paranormal anomaly. What remains are the testimonies, the unanswered questions, and the enduring intrigue of Jeff. The Gef case resists easy classification. Some believe it was an elaborate deception, perhaps a ventriloquist, or Margaret or Voyery producing the voice. Others suggest collective delusion or suggestibility within the family. Paranormal believers propose a spirit or entity attaching itself to the house. Critics point to lack of physical evidence. Why was Jeff never reliably photographed or captured? Why did it vanish without trace? Why would the Irvings maintain the story, no matter the social cost? But that very ambiguity is part of the allure. Jeff remains a shape in the dark. Maybe real, maybe imagined, maybe something in between. Nearly a century later, Gef the Talking Mongoose still captivates. His voice may be silent, but the questions echo. Was he a phantom in the walls, a clever hoax, or a departed creature speaking across dimensions? As you reflect on this tale, consider, would you believe a voice behind your walls? Could you distinguish imagination from something supernatural? The line is thin, and Jeff's legacy reminds us how fragile our sense of reality can be. So tonight, when you hear a creak or soft whisper in the dark, ask, could there be more than walls and wind? Perhaps a presence, waiting, watching, yearning to speak.
The Irvings left the farmhouse long ago, but some say the walls still murmur in the dead of night. A rustle in the rafters, a laugh just beyond hearing, Gef, restless and unseen. Was he a spirit, a trickster, or the echo of something darker that the family awoke? Truth or madness, it doesn't matter now, because once you've heard the whisper, you'll never be sure it isn't still calling your name.